Hello all. So as we have already come across Kubernetes, Terraform, and AWS service, and also the AWS VPC, and now let us see what is CI/CD pipeline and why do we require CI/CD pipeline, and what is the benefit of using CI/CD pipeline with all those things in this session. So the agenda would cover what is CI/CD, and why do we require, and exactly the process will go on, and what is the difference between continuous delivery as well as continuous deployment, that is CDCD, implementing in Jenkins. So we have already predefined codes or scripted codes which have been used to deploy the infrastructure, right? We'll go and see those things. So let us understand what exactly the CI/CD is about. So CI/CD stands for actually continuous integration and continuous delivery of the deployment. So what is continuous integration? So if you are adding something to your existing code frequently, that is we call it as continuous integrations. And also continuous delivery means, so I have added some code to already existing code, that is I have new features to be added to my existing software. So I have done that using the continuous integration. So post testing, even I have to deliver to the production, right? Unless until I won't get any updates to your applications or the software or the Play Store or the iOS stores or the Microsoft Windows stores, whatever, right? For that purpose, we required continuous delivery. So before CI/CD implementation, so people used to have to integrate themselves. That is, whatever the code or whatever the changes they have made to existing source code, they need to commit by themselves. So obviously, when in using the CI/CD also they have to do, but once they have committed the new code, they need to test that code independently, and they need to perform all the test cases, and they need to check for any errors or the bugs that exist or that troubles the new version of the software. Everything they need to check by in the manual process itself. Thereafter, once the testing or complete documentation everything got approved, only then the software will be deployed, that is the new version will be deployed to the internet or the production line. So in that also, before they, that is deploy, so they need to deliver the code to the client, and they need to test on their premises or the platform, so whether it is working perfectly or based on the requirement, whatever the modification being sent to the production or the development team. So everything should be validated. Only after that the deployment process is to take place. So it was quite lengthy process and have many people to be involved in the stack. So to overcome all these things, they have come up with the tool, that is CI/CD, using the concept of Jenkins. Okay. In Jenkins, they used to write the CI/CD pipelines or the script, I can say. So we'll understand what is continuous integration. So automated test. So developer regularly merge their code changes into shared repository. Each merge triggers automated builds and tests to ensure that the code integrated well and the issue are caught earlier. So what they are telling means, so assume that to develop the Flipkart application, we have a 10 developers are working on this same website with the different components or the modules, I can say. So 10 people are not next to each other or sitting next to one of them and discussing they are developing by integrating the codes or like that, right? So in common to them, a repository will be shared among all the developers, and one person is working from 9 to 5, one person is working from different time zone, one person is working, all are working in different time zones. So in this case, what exactly was happening for CICD or the continuous integration, so one person has to keep monitoring. So whenever the developer commits the new changes, Again, he need to merge that changes to the repo. After that, it should be test run, and it should be run without any, that is, compilation error or runtime error, and should get the proper response whatever they were expecting, and the testing should be passed in all the aspects. So to monitor all these and to perform all these, different teams should be required, right? So since people are working in different time zones, so one has to keep monitoring all the time the repository and take care. So by integrating or by adopting the continuous integration, it doesn't require to be have many people installed. So whenever the developer commits that code, so automatically the code will be merged, and it will trigger a webhook request to the Jenkins pipeline. And in pipeline, um, DevOps CGM will going to write. So whatever has to be done. So initially what needs to be done, thereafter what needs to be tested, and how if the testing has some criteria that should be passed. If it is not passed, it should be revert back to the developer, and it should notify that we are getting some errors in these many lines. Please check and just commit it back like that. It should send a notification also. So all this will be automated, so without any human intervention. Okay. So next, frequent commits. Encourage developers to commit code frequently to minimize integration problem. So for example, so just now, the person who is developing the code or writing the code for the Flipkart application, he has just integrated one product in the catalog. Fine. So Flipkart doesn't own only one product on the catalog. So they have n number of products over their catalog. So what the developer has does, so you just want to check whether it is working or not, whether the integration, whatever they have made or changes to the code, whether it should working or not, he doesn't know that, right? So he will just commit that, and he will test, he will test all the things. Okay, so again, once if it is work, again you start moving on to the next progress. That is to have multiple products on the catalogs. Okay, so like that, continuous integrations allow developer to commit their code or integrate their code frequently. So that is what the time is, and continuous delivery. So automated delivery, sorry, deployment it is. So once the code passes the test, so once the whatever the criteria and the pipeline they have written to pass all the stages, once it is been passed, it will go for delivery. Okay, so the delivery will be done to the client, and thereafter approval they're going to deploy it. So deployment is to the network, delivery to the client. So it can be automatically deployed to start environment, sorry, staging environment, allowing for the further testing and validation. So it should be delivery, not the deployment. Okay. So releases readiness ensure that the application is always a deployable state, enabling quick and reliable release to the productions. So before deploying anything, so we should ensure that the application is working fine in all the aspects in our environment where we're going to deploy our applications, and it should be tested in all the aspects. So once we deliver the product to the end customer, so they're going to test in whatever the manner they required, and once they got satisfaction, so they will revert back that so we are good to go for deployment, like that they will tell. So only after that it will be deployed to the internet. So what are the benefits of using the CI/CD concepts? Okay, so benefits. So here we have faster development. That is speed up the development lifecycle, allowing teams to deliver features and fix more rapidly. So obviously, right? So I have that I just taken the previous example, like uh, the person or the developer will going to add that one product onto the catalog, right? Sorry, into the catalog. So what, once if the test cases passes, they will go on with the multiple products into the catalog. If it is not happened as per the expectations, it throws some errors while testing. So what exactly does on that time is, so immediately after getting an error in the pipeline or the testing cases or in the continuous integration, so it will pop up the developer who has committed that code saying that you have an issue in your code, please check and get it resolved. Like that it will say. So on that case, the developer is again, he started working on what exactly the issue will arrive, and he will again wrap it up the work, and he will try to fix the bugs as soon as possible. Like that, faster deployment and higher quality. So since each and every component is tested at the initial stage itself, so we can assure the quality of the product is more, as we catches the bug earlier and improving the all over software quality. Okay. So improved collaboration. So encouraging better collaboration among the teams member by integrating their work frequently. So one person is added the catalog and another person has to move that product into the cart to check out, right? So the other developer also trying to interact with that microservice, that is catalog microservice, to whether it both microservice are working better or not. If it is not, are they going to check? So on that time, so the both developer will have the collaboration between them while working. So they both internally communicate and they used to discuss what exactly the issue and what are why they are getting the issues. Like that, it's quite easy to understand the issues and resolve as possible, as early as possible. So these are the benefit of using the CI/CD things. Okay, so what are the tools we gonna use to automate the complete deployment process from commit of new code till the deployment? Okay, so before that, we left of part is only the development, that is taken care by the developers. So tools to maintain the version control. So why do we require version control? So some person, for example, every week or every often we used to get a update to our software, right? So even the previous version codes should be retained for future use. Why we require the previous updates source code? Probably we have already moved to new version, right? Might people ask that. So sometimes the newer version might face some issues while using. So the newer version cannot be assumed to be stable since it will be used by multiple persons. Or in case of some issues, or if you have something to be made changes, sorry to make changes, we require to be retain the older versions of the code to do any changes or modifications to be tested, right? For all those kinds, we require version. To maintain that source code versions to be maintained in the repo, we use Git or GitHub or GitLab. Okay. And to automate the process, once after the committing of code to the repository, it should be run and tested in different perspective, and some operations to be performed and execution testing, everything should be done, right? For that purpose, we use either Jenkins, Circle CI, Travis CI, GitHub CI/CD, GitHub Actions. So these are the tools we going to use to automate the process from testing till deployment, and thereafter we come to containerizations. So why do we require containerizations? I have explained in Kubernetes actually. So we require containerization to deploy our packaged application to the internet. For that purpose, we use either Docker or the Kubernetes. Okay. So what are the phases we will see or we come across or we going to set up or we that is going to be performed in CI/CD phases? So in CI, that is continuous integration. So assume that here we have a developer one who commits the code into Git repository. So once after committing the code to Git repository, so integration should be done, right? So we will going to create a trigger here. So the trigger in the sense, so whenever there is a change find in that repository, it should automatically run. So without human intervention. Okay. So once the trigger got triggered, the build will going to happen. So the build is nothing but it will going to run that code and checks for any bugs are there or not. So that is run the unit test and based on the packages and run integration test. So complete testing will be done. So only after the test, all these test cases got passed, afterwards the artifact repository will be. So that is the build will get success. And once the build got success, again they need to test the whole application, right? So whether the integration purpose, whatever they have integrated, that is from login, catalog, cart and the checkout, so all should work perfectly, all should interact to one another internally, right? So that needs to be tested in the continuous delivery. So once the build got success, automatically they deploy it for testing the application. So run the acceptance test. So they pass some values which should accept and which should revert back the result whatever we are expecting. So once that is got applied, deployed to staging. So staging is something like between approval as well as ending in that. And thereafter they run the performance test. So what is performance? So same application will be deploying multiple platform and they're gonna check whether the speed, response rate, how accurate we are getting back the products, everything will be checked in detail, and then run the end-to-end testing. So end-to-end testing in the sense we will be having the one end client, another one is customer, that whatever the things will going to happen based on the documentation they're going to run and deploy to production, that is for the live. So this is the phase will taken care by the CI/CD, completely will be of automation with no human intervention. Okay. And this is life cycle. So just what I have explained in same but in different aspects, that's it. So I just mentioned it like we have a developer here which is going to come in. That is what is they are in detail visual thing. So the initially the developer will commit the changes, automatically the trigger will happen, and once the trigger happens, the software or the product will going to run or the code will going to run. So notify of build outcome. So whether it is successful or if we have error, anything. So if it is error, it will revert back to here itself and will notify the developer. So if it is passed, it will move next and it will test the application. So once the test got passed with the documentation, even documentation will be prepared by that software itself. So what exactly have been happened, what are the test cases they have come across, everything. Okay, so notify the test outcome, and once it is got passed, deliver build to the environment. So deliver build to the environment is nothing but, so they going to test again in the client location where they going to deploy the application. So once it works well and good in that environment, immediately after that they going to deploy wherever it necessary, that is in the location, whether it is a Docker or a Kuber as of now. Okay. So just we come across the benefits why we required. So that is what we're going to see in that. So faster time to market. So rapid release. So automation builds and deployments allows team to release features and fix more quickly, keeping pace with the user demands and the market changes. So people are expecting new UX or UI with the latest features in one application without switching or without installing the multiple applications. So based on the user requirements, the team or the company will start doing or enhancing their application by integrating the latest features or the on-demand features to the application. So it's quite we see right why it is called rapid release. So whenever they do any minimal changes, automatically the process will move on. So without any human involving, right? And improved quality. So if you have any error here, so immediately it will not move, proceed with the further step. It will return here and it will notify the developer saying that we have error. So that is by improved quality by early bug detection. Continuous testing catches the errors earlier in the development cycle, reduce the cost and effort of fixing the bugs later. So assume that here we have an error or the warning in some modules, but still it moves to other and it got deployed in the production. So some users are facing while they are checking out the card. So they have product already available while browsing it, but when they are trying to check out, the product says that it's out of stock like that. And what the customer will think that, or it might be some server issues like that they will think. So he will try back after some time. So still is getting the same issues. So he has to write that issues or the query to the concern team. So the concern team has to review what exactly is happening, everything. So it's a quite long time and the product quality is down, right? So they cannot guarantee the product. So that is what happen if we are not using the CI/CD things, or if we are just developing and testing the things and just deploy even after getting the warnings or like that. So consistent quality assurance automates test ensures that new code doesn't break existing functionality. So whatever the existing, that is I just mentioned, right, version control. So we have v1.0.0 version is deployed and is working well and good, and we want to release 0.2 where we're going to do some slight modifications to the UX or the UI thing. Okay, so that should be collaborated or that should be well engaged to the existing code. It should not create any trouble, so which is already working. So that should be maintained in this. So enhanced collaboration, just I mentioned, right? CI/CD encourages frequent code commits and collaborates among the team members for testing better communication and the teamwork. So in the benefits, I will just explain how exactly the collaboration will going to happen and reduce risk. Smaller changes by deploying a small incremental update, team can mitigate the risk of associated with the large scale releases and quickly roll back changes if necessary. So they get some bugs while testing. So what the developer will do, he just keep working on that bugs and he will resolve, and immediately he releases another increment, that is another code without bug, and he will just the production will move on, that is CI/CD pipeline will move. Increased efficiency, automation of repetitive tasks, automating testing, building and deployment frees developer from manual tasks. As I mentioned, why we required CI/CD without human interaction, everything, the all the process till the deployment complete will be taken care by that one, right? Allowing them to focus on the writing the code, just what they want. Some feature is required, just the developer duty is to integrate that code, that's it. The further task will be automated. So before automation we have to write the complete script. So once it is written, it can be used for many times. Write once, use many, the concept of CI/CD. So greater visibility, so real-time feedback. So the test is going on, the build is going on, right? So immediately we will get the feedback what exactly is happening. So that is what they are telling here, the real-time feedback. CI/CD tools provide immediate feedback on the code quality and the integration status, so enabling developers to address the issue quickly. And scalability, adaptability, as terms grows or project scale, CI/CD process can be adjusted to handle increased complexity without sacrificing the speed or the quality. Okay. So what is CDCD? That is continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So continuous delivery ensures that your code is always in a deployable state after passing the automated test. The code is ready to be released up to production but requires the manual approval step for the deployment. So the documentation and the approval from the client is required before deployment, right? So key feature, manual approval. Teams can choose whether to release updates to user or not. Staging area. Code can be deployed to staging area for further testing before going live. Staging area in the sense it's between testing as well as the production. Okay, so in between that, some other platform testing will be done to ensure the quality. Releasing management provides a greater control over the release process. So it completely depends on manual approval, right? So the approval team can take control over the releases. So continuous delivery, or sorry, deployment. So continuous deployment automates the release process by deploying every changes or the change that passes the test directly to production, so without any manual intervention. So what they are telling is, so we just saw the pipeline phases or the life cycle, right? So in delivery, some person has to approve the code for production, but when it comes to deployment, so directly without any permissions or the approval, so once the test cases have been passed and the local environment too, directly it will go into release another version, so without notifying the. Okay, so fully automated, every changes that is successfully tested is automatically deployed, as I just mentioned, right? So rapid feedback. So user get new features and fixed almost immediately, improving the responsiveness of your user needs, and no manual steps. So reduce the time and effort needed for deployment, allowing for the faster release cycle. So these are the benefits of going with CD. And how do we implement? So just I'm going to explain and I'm going to show you the code, people, so you can just try it on your own. So pre-requirements, what do we require? We required some PCs or the server of Linux or the Ubuntu, and that should have installed with Java as well as the Maven. Since we are trying to deploy the Java based web application, we required Maven to be installed and the latest Java version. And to automate process, I will be using the tool Jenkins, right? And how do I access the Jenkins? So in security groups, I need to allow port 8080 to be open to the internet, right? Once after configuring the Jenkins, again in Jenkins, we have to install the requirements on what we are going to. Okay, so if your project is deployed in Java code, needs to install Maven. So I need to add the plugin Maven, right? Along with that, I need to configure that. If I am trying to deploy the Terraform, that is infrastructure for your AWS or Azure or GCP, instead of Maven, I need to have Terraform to be installed in my Jenkins. Then click on the new item and select what kind of jobs to be performed, whether it is a freestyle, pipeline, multi-branch commit, or Maven projects, whatever. Select the process, in this case Maven, and link your repo zip rehab. That is your GitHub repo URL to be embedded in that configuration to set up the webhook to push the changes from the Git to the Jenkins on any changes got occurred. So once the configuration is set up fully, click on the build now. So once you click the build now, the process will take place. That is, the code will run and it checks for all the error. If you have any errors, it will throw you back. If not, the it shows that build is success. Okay, so we're going to have some Terraform scripts which I have already done. Okay, so in Jenkins, instead of installing the Maven, so I have just installed the Terraform as my dependency, and I'm going to, on clicking the new item, I will be choosing pipeline. So in pipeline, I will going to write the script. So what I am writing here means I'm using the pipeline as my tool, and the agent can be of anyone. So it's not like it should be of Jenkins or that we have any other tools, right, like that. So in that, what I am trying to perform here, I will be using the Terraform, right, to deploy or to create the infrastructure. Okay, it's not deployed, to create the infrastructure in my cloud platform. So if you are using to run that your code, that is Java based code, means you can use, that is tools is called to Maven like that. Okay, so in that tool, what are the stages it should come across to satisfy the result or the before production. It goes like that. So before creating the resources in the desired location or specified, so what needs to be done priorly. So initially the stages I should take, so number of stages, for that we call it as, in plural we call it as stages here. In that we will be having the stage. So initial first stage, I need to pull my code into the pipeline, right? So for that, step one is git branch. Which branch I need to pull? The main branch. So whatever the code I have in my main branch, I need to pull it to CI/CD. Since will be using the webhook things, it should be secured. It will be secured since it's a private repo. So we need to pass the credential, that is personal access token, followed by the URL to your GitHub repository. That is my repository name is, that is GTS Terraform Jenkins.git. So this is the first step or the stage one. Next, once the code has been cloned, so the second step it should perform means it should read the Terraform and it should install the, that is it will going to initialize the requirements. So what are the dependencies or the updates or the libraries required to run that file. Okay, so that is in shell we will be passing, that is a shell scripting we call it as, that is sh, will pass, it will pass terraform init. So once it is got passed, it will plan complete code, whatever the code we have written to perform. So Terraform plan will apply and it will auto approve. So I have given auto approve since I don't want to interfere in the automation. So automatically it will approve if everything looks fine. So and thereafter apply. So the apply stage will go into create the resources on the desired location and whatever we have requested to create it. Okay, so these are the process. So even we can add another stages when it comes to software deployment. So initially the stage one will be, we will be cloning the thing. Second, we will be building that software to check for integration and the unit testing. We'll be performing some test cases using the different tools, and once everything is got run, we'll be going to deploy. Even deploy will be using Docker or the Kubernetes, and we're going to mention so where it should be deployed. Okay, so this pipeline script is written to perform or to create a resource in my AWS of EC2 instance. So here I am creating EC2 instance without manual process. So just I going to hit build button, so automatically EC2 instance will get created. Okay, so here I have provided where it should be created and I am providing the details what should be created, right? So again, a new I have created. So here just I have taken only the EC2 instance. So when in real life we'll be having the many resources, so we cannot go and delete each one individually. It will kill lot of time, right? So to do that, even have made the written the another script to destroy whatever the resources have been created priorly on same one click. So same the script will remain same till here, and instead of apply we will be writing it terraform destroy stage. In that, this is the code, just ignore these things, it's a commented one. Okay, so sh terraform destroy. So what needs to be destroy? I need to target, right? I need to pass the reference name. So fn target is equal to aws instance dot my ubuntu instance. So look here, aws instance dot my ubuntu instance, right? fn auto approve. So if it is fetched for this instance reference name, automatically get approves and it will get deleted. So only on two clicks I can able to create the resource, I can able to destroy the resource without logging into the AWS account. So this is how the automation will come into existence. So I have written just once. If I want to have if I want to create multiple resources, just I need to keep adding the resources here, nothing else apart. So once if I add the resources here, automatically webhook will trigger and it will move back. So how do we create webhook actually? So this is my repo. I will go into settings. So there we can see webhook, right? So here add webhook. So we need to authorize it, and then only we can able to create that. So see here the payload. So I will going to add this. Just I need to pass the URL. So only after that I can able to do that. So what could be the URL? You can say that. So the Jenkins URL I need to paste it here. Then I need to add that is GitHub hyphen webhook like that. So they had given right www.form URL then code etc. So this is all about the concept of CI/CD pipeline. So why do we require, and what is the benefit of using the CI/CD things, and what is the advantage, and how it was priorly, and how it is going to be after implementing the CI/CD thing. So thank you.